Hi, I'm Chef Rob Lukasik, and I'm here to teach you a healthy salad, which is a good summer salad and also a good fall salad. And if you're not a fan of Brussels sprouts, you might be after you see this recipe, okay? So I have a vinaigrette that I'm going to start with, all right? And I have some olive oil. Olive oil is very good for you. It's one of the best oils for you, monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats. Now, all oils pretty much contain about 14 grams of fat per tablespoon. So it doesn't matter which oil you use when you're talking fat content, because they don't pretty much all have the same amount of fat content. We have to look at the monounsaturated, the polyunsaturated, which are the good things for our body. We want to stay away from saturated fats, like butter, okay? Butter, bacon grease, stuff like that, which is higher in saturation, which is bad for your heart, obviously. Okay, so we try to choose good oils, and you can make these substitutions in a lot of your favorite recipes. And by changing the oil, you're actually changing what's going into your body, which is going to be better for you in the long run. So I have some olive oil, which is very good for you. I have some walnut oil. Walnut oil. Walnuts, they say you should have a helping of walnuts every day because walnuts are so healthy. Omega-3s, omega-6s. Omega-6 is good for skin, and the omega-3s, which are essential, which our body does need. Our body needs fats, but we try to give ourselves good fats. So by using walnut oil and olive oil, and obviously walnuts will pair really well with the Brussels sprouts, okay? So then I also have, I got my two oils, and I have some apple cider vinegar, which is going to add a nice little sweet tart flavor to this, so you get that acid balance. Then I'm going to add some lemon juice. All right, so I'm just going to squeeze. It needs about 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, which is more acid, but it's going to add a nice flavor. And just by about a half a lemon is roughly about 1 tablespoon. Okay, so I'm just squeezing that over my strainer to get the seeds out. Then I'm going to add a little maple syrup for sweetness. Okay. Now, if you're concerned about sugar, or if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic and you have issues with sugar, there's a thing called the glycemic index. And what it is vegetables and things that are high in carbs are rated on a scale from 1 to 100. Maple syrup is on the lower end, and for something to be good on the glycemic index, it has to be under a rating of 55. So maple syrup actually falls under that rating. So it's right around that rating, or a little bit below. So it's actually going to add a nice maple flavor, which will pair well with our Brussels sprouts. Going to add a little bit of sweetness, plus it's a better sugar for you, okay? So we try to stay away from things, especially if you're diabetic, you want to stay away from items that are high on the glycemic index, and you want to kind of impart more things into your body that are lower on the glycemic index. Like we're going to have apple in this recipe, and apples are great. They're lower on the glycemic index, so that's a good fruit that has natural sugars, which is better for you. Like I said, especially if you are pre-diabetic, you're in that pre-diabetic stage, or you are a diabetic, and you really have to watch your sugar intake. So I've got my olive oil, my walnut oil, my apple cider vinegar, and my maple syrup, and now I'm going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard. Dijon mustard is mustard with a little bit of white wine. From the town of Dijon, France. Okay, and then I'm just going to whisk all these ingredients together. Very simple. And this is a basic vinaigrette. Okay, you can see how that comes together. And the Dijon mustard actually just kind of gives a little bit of thickness for the viscosity of this vinaigrette. So it actually going to kind of lace and coat the shredded Brussels sprouts. Okay, so I'm just going to mix that together quickly, and it's just going to sit there and let those kind of flavors meld for a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Brussels sprouts. And I've already rinsed off my Brussels sprouts. And what I'm going to do is trim these up, and you just want to slice them very thin. Make sure you got a sharp knife, so I usually cut that bottom part where they're harvested, where it's kind of brown and nasty. And I'm going to take that off. You should wash your vegetables, especially nowadays. Always rinse and wash them, because these are always left out open in the store, and you're grabbing what you can, and some people grab and put back. So you always want to make sure you rinse and dry your vegetables really well before you use them, especially if you're going to be using them in a raw state like this salad is. It's not going to be cooked. So all I do is I cut my Brussels sprout in half, and then I just take my knife and I just cut as thin as I can, and then just shred it. So basically this is like a coleslaw, which is cabbage, with a vinaigrette or dressing, but we're just going to use the Brussels sprout, the raw Brussels sprout. We cut it nice and thin. And this salad lasts for a while because the hardiness of the Brussels sprouts, they don't break down real fast. So it does last like for a day or two in your fridge when you make it. And I shredded it, I did a bunch of these already just to save on time. But I'm using 8 ounces of Brussels sprouts for this recipe. And I'm going to add some apples to this. I'm going to add I have a Granny Smith apple, which is a little bit tart apple. Okay, obviously not as sweet as like a Macintosh, but you could put any apple you want in here. You could use a Pink Lady, you can use a Gala apple, you could use a Red Delicious, a Golden Delicious, whatever you got, doesn't matter. Okay, they all work well. The apple and the Brussels sprout pair really well together. And with it being the fall season, apples are abundant right now. They're on sale. So why not make a nice little healthy salad like this Brussels sprout? So, okay, and then just about done here. Shredding these. Got my last one. And when you're cutting and slicing these, try not to like take your knife and slide it across the board like that, because it will dull it, and then you wonder why your knives are always dull and you can't cut. So, but it's a habit that we have. So turn your knife over and slide stuff across. Okay? So I'm going to put the rest of these. Just try to get them as thin as you can. Okay. So I've got my shredded Brussels sprouts. Now I'm going to take a clove of garlic, and I'm just going to mince this up. All right. So I'm going to cut it in half. And I'm just going to start chopping this up. And then that whole mincing motion is just putting your knife on top and going back and forth. Clean off your knife, turn it over, bring the garlic together, and then just keep going back and forth just to chop that up nice and small. You don't want to get a huge chunk of garlic, or a big chunk of garlic as you bite into your salad, because then it'll be overpowering. Garlic is very, very good for you as well. They've known this since back in the Roman times. It's a very healthy item to put into your body. So we're going to add a little garlic to impart a little flavor. So that's that whole mincing motion. All right, we're going to add that right into our salad. Then I have an apple. This is a Granny Smith apple, like I mentioned. I'm not going to peel it because there's so many vitamins in the peel. I've already washed the apple and dried it off. So I'm going to leave the skin on. Because those are good things. The vitamin C in the skin of the apple, you can peel it. Go ahead and peel it if you want. And I'm just going to cut right around the core. Nice, easy way to do it. All right, and then I'm just going to cut these into dices, just small dice. So little squares. This is going to add a nice, different texture to my salad. You can do one slice at a time. More comfortable doing that, or you can stack them, cut strips and then cut crosswise so that it cubes them up nicely. Finish this apple. Like I said, use any apple that you like. All right. This is a nice quick way dice your apple. Got my apple, got my garlic, I got my shredded Brussels sprouts. Okay, I've got some sunflower seeds. Now these are dry roasted sunflower seeds, unsalted. That's about a quarter cup of that. That's going to add a nice little crunch to this salad as well. You can put walnuts in there. Walnuts are very good for you. So you can always add, we do have walnut oil in the dressing, so you can use walnuts instead of the sunflower seeds. So that'll complement it, the Brussels sprouts as well. I've got a little bit of fresh grated Parmesan cheese. Now this is an aged cheese, so it's dry, all right? It's not as moist as like other cheeses, so being an aged cheese like that, yes, it has some sodium in it, but our body does need sodium, but it's not as high as some of the cheeses. So we just add a little bit of that Parmesan cheese into there, and the last thing I'm going to add is some shredded carrot. I have a peeled carrot here, and I'm just going to add. This is going to add color and another type of crunch into this salad. You could also put dried fruits in here if you wanted to. You just got to be careful of the sugar content, especially if you are watching your sugar. But like a craisin, raisins and craisins, dried cranberries are actually lower on the glycemic index than some other fruits. Dried apricots would work well in here too. Those are one of the best dried fruits that are the lowest on the glycemic index if you are watching your sugar. Okay, so then I'm going to put in some fresh cracked pepper. Now, when we talk about healthy cooking, and sometimes people think like, oh, I got to go fat-free, I got to eliminate this, and you're thinking like, well, if it's healthy, it probably doesn't taste good. Well, how do we want to make good things taste good? And that's what we do is we use fresh cracked pepper. That's going to be better tasting. You're going to notice that flavor of that pepper when it's freshly cracked, as opposed to getting the ground pepper that's been in your cupboard for like several months. You're really not going to taste as well. But when you go out to a restaurant and they ask you if you want fresh cracked pepper on your salad, and it's like, wow, this salad looks really good. You notice that fresh cracked pepper is going to really like just take that salad to a new level. So I always use fresh cracked pepper because, like I said, it's going to impart more flavor into my finished item. All right. Using the freshest ingredients possible is another thing. If I'm adding tomatoes to something, make sure your tomatoes are nice and fresh and ripe. If they're not, then there is no flavor in an underripe tomato. So what's the point? So if you make things that are using the ingredients at their freshest, when they are mature or at the ripest point, you're going to get much more flavor into what you're making. And so then you can make healthy food taste good. Okay. So I've got that, and I'm just going to the pepper. I'm just going to put a little pinch of salt. We need salt. Our body is essential, so we do need some. But just a couple pinches, very, very small. That's going to help bring the flavors of all these ingredients out. Okay. So I've got my ingredients in the bowl, and I'm just going to mix them all together. I've got the carrots, the apple, the Brussels sprouts, the sunflower seeds. And now I take my dressing and I give it one more mix, because the oil will separate from the lemon juice and the apple cider vinegar. So this way, when we just give it a quick mix, it kind of emulsifies it quickly, and then it'll coat the rest of the salad really nice. So I'm just going to pour some of that over. And I'm just going to mix this up and then let it sit for a little bit, okay? Let those flavors kind of come together. Like I said, it's really nice if you add even like the craisins. They're going to add another different type of texture into the salad. They will impart a little bit of sweetness as well. But if you're worried about sugar in your diet, then just because we already have some maple syrup in here, then maybe eliminate it. Don't put in any type of fruit. We've already got the apple, like I said, which always has some natural sugars in it as well. Okay. So I have my salad. So now what I'm going to do is just plate this up. This makes a nice addition to like I said, a summer party. It's not that hard to make. All fresh, natural ingredients. Okay, I've got a little bit of radicchio here. Put on my plate. And then I'm going to get up my Brussels sprout salad. And then if I want to garnish with a little bit more fresh Parmesan cheese, I can as well. And there's your Brussels sprout salad.